All right guys, today we're gonna talk about the Inurig. If you haven't heard of it, it's the latest rig to come out of Japan. It's got a lot of hype around it. And as you can see from the video footage I just showed you, that's because it has some really lifelike action. It's compressing and decompressing. And so it's, in my opinion, creating the most lifelike action of any of the worm rigs, including like the Wacky rig, the Carolina rig, the Texas rig. So I'm gonna show you how to tie it, and then we're gonna go fish it and see what the hype is all about. What you're gonna need some sort of worm. These are the Gary Yamamoto Senkos. Some super glue, like an O-ring. Of course, you're gonna need a hook. And then you're gonna need some sort of straw or tubing. Originally, I went on to Amazon and tried to find like the smallest tubing I could find that's hollow. And this was the smallest that I could find. So I ended up just going to Walmart and buying like a coffee straw. So that's what I have here. So the first thing you're gonna wanna do is you're gonna wanna take your straw and just cut the tip of it at an angle so that it's pretty sharp, because we're gonna be threading this tubing through the worm itself, and you wanna have it sharp so they can go through a little bit easier. Okay, so what you wanna do is you wanna look at the head of the worm, and then I like to just follow like that natural like factory mold line, just so that when you're weaving through everything, you just get everything lined up nice. But I would go probably a centimeter below the head of it. And instead of going like directly through, you're gonna wanna go at an angle. And the reason for that is we're gonna be putting the line through this hole and then through another hole and through another hole. And as you're like compressing, the string is just not gonna move well if you don't have your straw at an angle like that. So we're gonna do another hole. So you kinda wanna just see about how it's gonna look. I'm gonna go probably like right here. And then you're gonna do one final hole, and I do like to do like maybe like 2 centimeters from the tail. These are 5-inch Senkos, so obviously depending on the length of the worm, it's gonna be a little bit different. But so again, I'm going through directly across, but at an angle. All right, now that I have my holes, I'm gonna take this tip off, because these are the only 2 parts that are actually gonna be sliding up and down the line. This will be stationary, this section. And we're gonna just apply it, just a little bit, slide up the worm so that it's now over the super glue. And we're gonna do the same thing for the lower part too. All right, so now we're just gonna wait a little bit for that to dry, and then I'll show you the next step. All right, so now that we've given it enough time for the super glue to dry, we're gonna take our scissors, we're gonna cut off the excess straw. So if you're holding it like this, you'll notice the straw is at an angle and it's pointing this way and that way. So now I'm gonna string it up. So the first thing you're gonna do is you're gonna take your hook. And it's interesting because the hook doesn't actually tie to the line, and you wanna face the tip of the hook towards the main line. And then holding your worm, you wanna rig it so that it's going through the straws at the right angle, so that these 2 spots are a little bit closer than these 2. And then the last one is just going through this last little part that doesn't have a straw, and this can be a little bit tricky. Okay, so once you've pulled that through, you take your O-ring, and you can tie really whatever knot you want. I'm just gonna do the improved clinch knot. After you cut off your tag end, you just pull the line tight. You can see it's now compressing. Take the hook, and I like to put the tip of the hook about as close to this eye hole as possible. And that's because you want the eye of the hook to line up with the straw. All right guys, I'm here at my local pond. I'm gonna test to see if we can catch some fish with this Inurig. I do have some concerns. The first concern being, you know, this line, it runs the whole length of the worm. So if you have a fish that has any sort of teeth, when it bites onto that worm, it's gonna sever this line and everything's coming off. So definitely don't fish this for any sort of toothy predator. The other concern I have though is, well, the placement of the hook for one, but the other thing is it's not, the line's not directly connected to the hook. You know, it's normally you're tying your line to your hook, but in this case, you know, before you're even able to hook the fish, this worm has to completely compress. And that's a concern, because that means instead of just immediately when you're yanking, you're pulling the hook, you actually have to pull this much line, probably, I don't know, 2 or 3 inches of line before you even have a chance at hooking a fish. We'll see how it goes, how it works. Oh, I had a hit. Goes to show right there, I mean, you get bites, but you might not hook the fish. So definitely when you're feeling these bites, really try to set the hook. All right guys, I've only been fishing for like maybe 5 minutes and I've already see a problem with this rig. One of the things that they have you do is they teach you to, you know, put the straws in this upper piece and this middle piece. This lower piece, you don't. You just put the string right through, or the line, and it just sliced right through the end of that worm. So I have another worm. I guess I could try to maybe put another hole at the bottom here and keep fishing this one for a little bit, but I don't know. Right there, dude. I had a bite. I think I had my drag on too loose though. Yeah, these hookup rates, I've had a few bites so far, and look at that, look at that. Pulled this little piece of straw right out of the tube. And I glued that pretty good too. So I don't know how I feel about this rig so far. It seems like there's just too many points of failure. Let's see how this is still moving. Seems to be okay. Oh, did I miss it?
1 hour later.
All right, guys. Well, I fished the Inurig for about 1 hour and 20 minutes. Had, I don't know, like maybe 7 or 8 bites, but fortunately didn't hook into any. Kind of wonder if it's just the design of the rig. That's just, you know, one of the big downfalls of that rig. My overall thoughts. Well, I'd say it's probably still too early to tell. It's a small sample size, but if you want to give it a shot, definitely give it a shot. But I think probably for most instances, you're going to want to still use one of the more known rigs, the Wacky rig, Texas rig. I didn't feel like I was getting a lot more bites than I normally would have anyway, but the hookup rate was just terrible, and there was a lot of points of failure. So if you like the video, please give it a thumbs up. Helps my channel out a ton. It's my first video, so those likes go a long way. Catch you in the next one.